Okay, daily trading recap for this Tuesday, the 23rd of November, 2021. Oh boy, a little bit of a hard day on the P&L, but laughing through it because of the circumstances that it was. Certainly not what I wanted to be in at the start of the day, but it's where we're at. And as referenced, of course, before I get into the actual trade itself, it was based on technical difficulties with the Wi-Fi and not being able to get out of the actual trade itself. So it wasn't the size or the actual trade that got me to that big of a loss that I had today. But regardless of that, too, I think as I'm setting myself forward here and kind of been in and out with this little ban on going long that I put myself in these past few trading days, I think I'm going to go especially back. I'm going to go back to that paper trading aspect of it. Short side, especially because of just the borrow fees and the margin account requirements of the stupidity kind of with that. Just don't really want to deal with it right now as I'm still under PTPI and still learning. And just, again, the hole that I forced myself into with that because of I'm really just kind of hoping for one attempt on the day to go short. And if it doesn't work out then kind of great. Oh, well, I can watch it and say, ooh, I think I would get short there. But it just really doesn't make a difference. And I'm pigeonholing myself so often with just this one day trade per day kind of thing that ends up screwing myself over a lot mentally, I think, subconsciously as well, too, because learning from Chris as well in his past of when he was so hard on that one day trade, I don't think I'm falling into that same mindset per se exactly, but I can certainly see myself coming into that a little bit of trying to put so much more weight on the one trade itself because I know, okay, this is my one trader on the day. This is what I have to go big size on. This is what I'm using, blah, 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 blah. And just kind of end up forcing trades that maybe shouldn't really be there. And even overall, too, it's just like I don't have to be trading every single day, but yet I always find myself like, oh, okay, well, this is the best option today, so I'm still going to short it. Whereas, no, if it doesn't fit my criteria, I shouldn't be shorting it. So many different factors going along with that on the short side. And then the long side, I think, especially to instead of just paper trading and the other stuff that I got going on, that there's no real awesome paper trading platforms other than maybe TradingView, which I would probably use to go short for these ones. But sucks again, too, because I can't do that pre-market. But regardless, I'm kind of spitballing here at this point. Longing, I think I'm going to stick to that Bryce Tui mentality of $2 risk and really maintaining like a $20 max position size when and where I can. If it's obviously the stock is above $20, then I'll adjust from there. But I think I'm taking the dial back. This day wasn't a bad, like breaking rules, breaking my monthly goal, just stupid trading. It certainly wasn't any of that. Maybe I can slap myself on the wrist that I knew I was having trouble with my Wi-Fi. I knew I was having trouble getting connected to the broker. And even still then I was trying to push the button. So kind of can blame myself a little bit for that, but it's still the same thing of I was doing everything humanly possible to try to get connected. And it's just this how the circumstances worked out. That's just what I got to live with and learn from as well. So even through that, I'm going to head back to that paper trading route and just continue to hammer it hard. And I think go towards more of that, hey, you're taking losses or you're not doing that hot for your win rate. You got to trade more, right? I think there's so many arguments for and against it of, the argument of, okay, you want to get better at pull-ups, start doing more pull-ups, right? And then you can make the argument of, well, that's a strength factor and you got to be focusing in on, well, how many reps do you actually want to be doing? And are you focused on technique or are you just about raw reps and blood? And you can apply the same thing to trading of, well, you might need a break and might need a little vacation to just kind of step away, get a clear perspective. I think so many different arguments for and against it but as of for me right now, I'm motivated to just go harder into it and to say, man, I'm not clicking into any of this. I need to start opening up my horizons and just continuing to test myself more and more. And I think the challenge for me is especially going to be maintaining the awareness of what I'm doing and the journaling aspect of it and not just going super, super willy-nilly with that of the longs, of the shorts, of just kind of the in and outs, little like VWAP hold style of trades and just get me super, tiny, minuscule little scalps. I'm going to try and stay away from that as much as I possibly can, but I think I'm especially going to start ramping up the number of trades I'm doing per day on a paper basis just to expose myself to more opportunities to just deprive myself of the limiting that I do on myself which is, I can only see one trade. Everything I'm doing right now is I end up only having like one trade on the day. And that kind of screws me over because there's opportunities at every single second of every single minute of every single day in the stock market, but it's just about finding the correct one and understanding when they aren't there. And what the market is saying too is that this time frame is really not applying any of those types of things that you're looking for to get long, to get short, to trade for your personality. Is it a different time frame? Just those are all things that I need to experiment with and find out more and more. I think that's going to come through the repetition, through the reps, through the exposure of myself more and more of like, okay, wow, I'm really, really wrong on these setups. Okay, oh, wow, I don't know why I really clicked on that type of setup, but I made $1 on my $20 setup. There's so many different things I can do with that. So I think that is my readjustment goal for where I'm at right now. And again, I go back to, it wasn't a terrible day. It wasn't a just stupid, boneheaded trading mistake day. It just kind of the circumstances that fell in my lap today. But it's even still too, I think this is just the little push I needed to say, you know what, you're right. I'm not here today within the next 6 months to make $1 million. I'm here for the 10, 20 years to make the 8 figures, to make whatever beyond that. And that's doesn't have to come right now. And I think in order to take this little step away from it in the big size, what I call big size, and just going back to that paper trading route is going to set me up far better long term than what I continue to do right now, just smashing my head against the wall over and over again every single day. But that was the introduction that I kind of just wanted to get off my chest, and then readjustment of my goals that I wanted to verbalize into words for myself of where I'm headed. Of course, we got one trading day left in this week for this holiday Thanksgiving week. So, we're gonna practice it, try it tomorrow, see what it does. I think we're gonna see a lot of opportunities of potential squeezers. That it's the last day kind of before holiday and everybody's kind of getting it out of their system. And Friday we may see something on the half day, but I doubt it. I'll still be there, of course. But housekeeping first, of course, before we go into the trades themselves. I try to get out of the repeating words that I say over and over again, the especiallys and the of course. I'm working on that. SPY, a little bit of just blah, whatever, nothing to say after the hard sell-off from yesterday. Once it tapped all-time highs, so still kind of in the sideways range under 470. We'll check it again. I really have no indication of where it could go the next day, but following along the same lines of, we have a 0.13% day in the green today, closing higher than we open. Chances are, object in motion tends to stay in motion. It'll potentially close higher tomorrow, according to what data I have, little rudimentary data. Market internals on the day for dollar volume as of 30 minutes after the close. We are NASDAQ at $289 billion volume, NYSE $300 billion volume, OTC is $2.3 billion volume. Just for reference for me, if I'm looking back at these videos, where the market's at for dollar volume. And pairing along too with the paper trading skill and what I mentioned earlier is the skill of adjusting on the fly. I think I do fairly well. I certainly do not say I'm perfect in any way, but I do a decent job at this point of prepping before actual market open, before trades start to come out. But then as I get into market open, I start to convince myself that I'm seeing other things, and that's going to kind of play out on PTPI. That'll show a little bit. And I've seen that play out a little bit in other stocks too, that I just kind of get drawn a little bit by the craziness and commotion of the market, and kind of everything just goes out the window. It's so I think that's definitely a skill that has to be learned. The quote that's popping in my mind right now is the Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And it's not even like I'm getting punched in the face. It's just kind of like I'm getting drawn by the flashing lights and everything going, that I kind of lose sight of that vision. So I think the paper trading and just the throwing out reps and going into this even harder on the paper side is going to expose me on what I'm actually seeing and where I'm at in regards of planning and preparation for these trades, and help me hone that skill a little bit more as well too, and just stay solid in what I see going into market hours versus just trying to just wing it and go with the flow of what I think is the flow is happening at that point. Okay, let's get into the charts then. PTPI. Yeah, this was the absolute stupidest one stupidest one. I thought we were going to get a just hard, continuous bleeder, just die, no amount of, well, actually, I'm lying about it. Preparation for me today, like I alluded to in the introduction, was before we had this break of this little low here around 2.5, I was thinking, okay, sweet. I'm looking for a longer fade on this one during market hours to just get short into as an easy trend follow sit. I could see this definitely having just a little maybe perk, but staying within this range under $3 and above 2.5-ish here. Just kind of petering out, doing whatever it wants to do. Then potentially I'm looking at this $3 range, even 3.2 here as a little point of reference to say, okay, looking now if it maybe perks just above VWAP, which could be a good little long escape that longs who are trying to play this to the upside would be selling as it's above VWAP, and shorts who are just a little too weak would have gotten squeezed at it as it popped to the upside of VWAP. That could have been a point of turn if this thing was curling back, whether pre-market, I was looking more towards market hours as a short to establish that. But anywhere within this first half hour, especially, of using this little 3 to 3.2 as anywhere here that we're getting toppy, I like to get short here and use that as a base for playing a full day, at least a 10% drop off, at least a 10% fade from there, and then maybe covering and just holding a few shares into more of the afternoon session, because I do not think this thing has the strength to continue to go crazy. This one was a little bit of a former runner at the start of this month, but just did not have the third day extension, just died off super hard from there. And this is kind of really a first-ish green day, not really, but certainly more and more shorts could be covering on the daily perspective. A longer-term short maybe could have been motivated to cover on this day than otherwise on these past few days. I mean, they'd be stupid to just continue holding for how low it already dropped. But anyway, regardless, into the actual trade itself, I don't even have arrows on here for my actual entries and exits because I don't know where I got filled. But the thesis was, as we're still in pre-market and breaking to new lows, I'm going, shoot, okay, this one, I think it's just going to keep fading. And do I really think it has the strength to come all the way back up to that $3 level or anywhere in that 3.2 range to potentially get toppy, whereas I could short it again? I don't really know. I don't really think so. And a little bit of that FOMO case of like, oh, shoot, back to that KZR trade, which I've done so many times before, but KZR was the nice winner that I had that on, of the dying in pre-market. And QLGN was a nice representation of that as well in pre. That I'll mention as well. But, okay, shoot, it's breaking these new lows here. It's continuing to just die off into market open. Get a little sell-off right out of the gate, and then perk within these third and fourth minutes. And I'm thinking, shoot, okay, as it's consolidating here a little bit, but then dying with this harder red candle in these little 3 minutes is when I'm thinking, okay, is this all we're going to get? Is this the only pop it's going to have today? It's a pretty decent way from VWAP here at this point, but I don't really let that deter me. It's still a huge percentage up from where it closed yesterday. We got plenty of room to come down, but of course, famous last words, plenty of room to go up more as well. But in the same light, there's plenty more other tickers that could have the average retail trader's attention on this one as compared to this one today. It really wasn't the most awesome dollar volume mover. It traded, let's see here, $230 million volume, but I mean, compared to QLGN, $510 million volume, KTTA, $1.2 billion volume, ISPC, $578 million volume. That was a total dire bleeder on the day too. That traded more dollar volume than this one. So just going along with that, I don't really feel that this one could be that crazy of a squeezer. It is that super low floater, 2.7 million float. But again, it kind of piggybacking off of what I learned on was at CRTD with Jack number 2 and Tim Lento mentioning if it's a low floater and there's very easy to borrow shares, that could be pretty sketchy. That could be a sign of don't get in this one. It could just be super manipulated. But the fees on this one were kind of reasonable. It was a little bit expensive, more than what I was normally used to paying for these ones because I don't normally short these crazy low floaters, but kind of in the range of what I would expect for how these were operating on a borrow basis. And it's now at this point too that, okay, now I'm having trouble with my TradeZero web browser. I'm logging into that. It's just like, okay, reloading, just trying to get in and out, just trying to, now looking to locate shares again, still in this time frame of okay, what's going on here? Trying to go to the app to see, okay, is it something with Trade Zero? Is it just maybe my Wi-Fi? Everything else was working great, my scans, everything that I had. So I didn't really think it was the Wi-Fi. But I'm like, okay, shoot, maybe it's just Trade Zero. Now the app isn't really working that hot and great. But then somehow it kind of just for a clear sky, a few little seconds, I'm able to get shares to short. And now we're in this little harder red candle. I'm thinking, okay, here I'm anticipating the break of this little range here, and then the break of low of day around this 205 for that huge confirmation that the trade is on, that this is just a continual fader. It's just going to die and keep bleeding. If it was going to break this low here, if it was going to break the low of day, I certainly thought that trade was in the bags, money talking. But so I put in a market order, which I have not done in the longest time. And really why I did that, couldn't tell you again, but it was just in the heat of the moment that, okay, well, I don't really know if my limit order is going to fill here or what's going on with the system. So kind of put it in a market order as it was like 215, 216-ish, kind of around here. It's continuing to die and bleed off, and a little bit of recovery, and I say, okay, yeah, whatever. Meanwhile, it's still not showing that I have a position or if I'm even in the trade or not, and then now it's screwed over, and I'm going, okay, now I really want to get into my app here, see if it works through my phone, see if I continue to try and reload the web browser. This just crazy fun journey and story to go through. You get this, and then we get into this time frame that it's a little bit of a perk here, and I'm going, okay, well, I don't really like that, and potentially I would have been out of this if I had full control of it as it's recovering so well here. I certainly was going to risk this high of day as a max stop, but it's still within that for right now. So I'm not going like super panicky, crazy hard, but still, of course, like pushing that refresh button so hard, still not being able to get anything. I'm trying to call Trade Zero now at this point too. Their phone lines are blowing up. I can't get an answer from anybody. I just have to sit through this huge spike on big volume that smacks this thing to 2.6, and I'm going, okay, let's refresh quicker now. Just still not getting anything, and then finally able to get a hold of somebody at Trade Zero, and then I get into that situation where it's okay. Well, this thing is kind of parabolic right now. Is it stupid for me to just cover? And of course, blocking out this volume. Let's go one tick at a time here. This kind of parabolic volume, and it's coming to VWAP. I'm thinking, okay, I'm on the phone with a guy like, could this just reject at VWAP and then peel off for the rest of the day? Am I going to top tick this thing for a cover just because I'm panicking? So I end up canceling that order with that guy and just holding on a little bit more. But then we break to the upside of VWAP. I'm trying to call again, failing to get anybody again on the line because their phones are just going crazy. Maybe they had broker issues today. But then I was able, luckily, to finally get somebody, and I got a 265 fill. They got me for an exit. And it did spike a little bit higher, ended up going to 295, but then peel back, retempt at that $3 level, and that was kind of the end of it. But oh my gosh, it's just one of those stories of you got to go through it. And certainly in the moment, I was fuming like a freaking volcano. But even right now, as I'm looking back at it, it's just a funny, awesome story that I needed to go through. And I don't think I had anything kind of close to that in that situation. And glad it wasn't account destruction to that scale. Yeah, it's $200 that I lost on that one, and like $30 for the borrow fees. But I mean, I'm certainly glad it wasn't just an absolute monster, crazy, stupid, parabolic squeezer that it's not even a learning lesson at that point. It's just like so much pain and hurt for no reason. Not no reason, but you know what I mean. But golly. That was my story. And then I pulled up the chart at the end of the day here too, and even kind of after clearing my head and just pacing around, just pulling back up the chart at the end of the day here, it followed my plan. I was looking for that $3-ish level, kind of that $3 to $3.2 range. I see we're easy to spot, double topping here. Okay, we're rejecting. This was the plan I had before market opened, through all of the break to the downside here, breaking to new lows into market open, through just this little mishigas. It did what I thought it was going to do to the price level, even through all of that, which is even more surprising. even more of a testament to, hey, stick to your plan and just trade that. If it doesn't happen, then be willing to let it go. And I think, especially for me right now, without that skill with a just very immature knowledge of what is adjusting on the fly, what is seeing what I think is there, what is not there, just so many different facets like that. I think it's especially important for me to just establish a plan pre-market when I'm not in that crazy situation, when I'm not trying to call a broker, trying to refresh all three of my apps here, especially in those situations, but even in normal market situations of, okay, where's the tick here? Okay, what are my other charts doing here? Everything else, external distractions that could be going on. Stick to that plan, stick to the foundation of what the trade is, and if it doesn't work out, if it doesn't ever come, then be willing to learn from it and grow. And down the road, I know that skill will eventually come of seeing things that just kind of pop up or happen. That really happened for the first time, I think, is the words that are coming to my mind, the phrase of in market hours, and being able to recognize those opportunities versus what are the trade opportunities that you can prepare for outside of market hours, outside of that craziness, and be far more equipped to start trading these during that time. Oh my goodness. So that was PTPI. KTTA I'll mention as well. If I could type it correctly. I kind of broke my rule a little bit. I took this one long. Took 100 shares off of what I considered a failed morning dump trade, and A+ idea for what the trade was, because this one, KTTA, oh my goodness, it's like fake out inception of how many times this thing was just like, okay, we're going to go here. Nope, just kidding. We're going the other way. And oh, you thought we're going to continue? Oh, nope, the other way. So like starting off with how many times even before then too of consolidation, and now it's breaking that little tight consolidation, call it a little bit of a wedge from the initial spike. Shorts establishing in, who could have been me a while ago, a few months ago when I was going harder on that morning dump pattern of trying to get a little cheeky and play this short before it actually broke to the downside of VWAP, where they got screwed, smacked to a new high of day, and they got any longs trying to play off of that, got screwed as well. I think Ross from Warrior Trading was actually red on this one during pre-market when I saw his live stream. But then pulls back, comes back down to VWAP, and then it's an actual kind of confirmation of, okay, now we're actually in this downtrend. We're under VWAP here, so you can sit nicely as a short. And even that too, it's 5.5, break to the downside of VWAP, 2.5, 10% is right there. This is a crazy volatile mover. So even holding nicely as a short, but off of G-Tech and off of the other past one that I think that was Monday yesterday. But of how many of these we've seen reverse that have the slower initial spike. It's not just a straight up immediate spike, but it kind of continues to build, maintains the upside of VWAP, buyers in control, curls to the downside, and just like, hey, shorts, come on in, the water's fine. And then it's showing you very confident little moves that, oh, we're breaking lower here, we're breaking lower. We're going short, and then just continues to reverse, and you get to market open, and it starts squeezing to new highs and halt within the first minute of that market open right after the bell. I'm just absolutely obliterating early shorts in these ones. So that was the move that I was trying to play for long, buying the dip off of what I thought was a little bit too hard of a sell-off after this little fake out here, which I think would have been off of other longs trying to play the same thing off of this. They're using this little metric as their stop, which is an obvious one because that's the same one that I used on this move here, where you get a nice volume buildup that I thought was holding, maintaining the discipline of, okay, don't try to be a hero, don't try to bottom ticket, just wait for the confirmation trade, wait for the confirmation on the time and sales on the level 2 to show that the trend is actually reversing, because there's plenty of upside to profit off of this one. You don't have to be so gung-ho on bottom ticking it. There's plenty of room to be able to sit on this one, to be waiting and patient for this one to actually be working out. Waited as long as I could, and I thought, okay, I think the trend is established here. I think this is an exhaustion candle, volume candle here at this point as it's breaking to new lows. We were holding kind of nicely around this 4.6, but then ended up breaking under 450, which was a low here, so got a 4.51 fill. For the size that I wanted to lose, I was very well prepared for that and calculating that all in my head and understanding the risk and being very patient along that. And it ended up being just a few cents later that was the actual bottom, and that was an A+ thesis for. I probably would have been taking off some. Man, I'm just scaling myself out of this chart so often. Okay, yeah, I probably would have been scaling out around VWAP here just for the ease and the comfort to not have to deal with the craziness and stupidity at market open, but probably would have left a few on because the conviction in my head was there too that I know this thing's just going to go squeeze or go crazy at some point, whether it just kind of dumps within that first minute and then spikes and goes crazy and reverses on early shorts trying to jump in, or if it goes like it did exactly today, first 2 minutes before that bell, and then halts after that first minute of market open. Kind of, predicted that in my head as well too for what I was looking for out of this trade. So this is the route I want to be going more towards with what I want to do with the paper trading, with what I want to do with just the sizing way the heck down to that $2 risk level area of, it doesn't have to be that I'm cutting these shorter quicker. It can be because, it can just be because I want to start taking more and more trades like this and not be afraid. Fear is not the right word for this one, but just not be limiting myself to, okay, shoot, well, it didn't work from there, but still being open and ready to say, okay, it didn't work from there. I think it still could happen from here, because it literally did 2 minutes later after that idea was still there. And that was the trade. That was the exact type of thing that I'm working for. And then I just screw myself over sometimes because it's just like, oh, well, shoot, they stopped me out again. Oh, the market's out to get me, right? No, screw that. Just get back in. So I think getting away from the just chains of the, I'm in a cash account, or I'm in a sub PTT account, I can only use it this much, I got to fire. Every bullet is precious, is valuable to a sense, but for me and what I'm doing right now, I got to go on the other extreme of that side and just start throwing those bullets like a friggin' machine gun. So market hours, just crazy choppiness, absolutely ludicrous here. It tries to go to new high of day and then woof, gets slammed. Market hours are just a minefield with these ones that have been moving in pre. QLGN I'll mention as well too, trying to wrap up this video as quick as I can, but just good recap and verbalization for me again. QLGN, I was hoping for this same type of thing of PTPI of, okay, maybe we get any amount of perk or just a little morning spike to short into, and then I'll be looking to get in on that. But this one, the same thing that on the KZR trade, and did a little bit of, what I'm trying to say here. But I think very bearish sign for me is, okay, we're getting these lows here. It's developing a little bit of a range. VWAP is clinging pretty nicely to the upside of this price action as it's continuing to fade, which I do like to see. And that was very evident on the KZR as compared to, what was the one that I lost on ASTR yesterday or Friday, of that it didn't. It was a pretty decent way. And the same thing on PTPI, actually, for the same type of move of potential recovery to that VWAP point. Versus what the volume is actually saying, that there's actual selling volume continuing to bleed this thing dry. And a good mention for me that I had to write down quick within this first minute of market open, hundreds of thousands of bids for some reason that I saw show up on the level 2 that just got immediately chewed away. And there was no follow through, no continuation of that price to try and shoot this thing any higher, but just huge size. And I don't know if I've just not seen that sometimes in the past, or not been looking hard enough, or it was a miracle on my level 2 that the Wi-Fi actually was able to show that today. But I thought that was very interesting, of huge bids coming in. Maybe that was shorts covering, maybe it was actual bidders trying to prop this thing up and get any amount of squeeziness like the KTTAs. But it just did not have any continuation. And that should, in my mind, I'm saying that this should be a bearish signal, that it's failing to continue. And sure enough, awesome little opportunity, little block here, trading from anywhere from 1.9 within these first few minutes of market open, being able to cover at 1.7. That's an awesome trade there. And even if you're still holding a few shares from me, which I'd be potentially holding half, even as it's respecting perfectly this 1.9 level as a high, tops off of there that it fell to in pre, that 1.9 level became key for some reason, bounced off of there for even more, comes down all the way to 1.6. Easy and nice little trade. And this another opportunity here is this VWAP, a little bit kind of sketchier and have to read into it a little bit more, have some bigger balls as for the VWAP rejection trade, that it's kind of pops here on big volume but fails, but then actually pops to the upside, but it's still a red candle, eventually pulls back. It would have been interesting to see the live time and sales level 2 on that one, and just tries again here, pretends like it's continuing to build up and attracting more longs, but another attempt here that just gets dunked on and failed. Another little short opportunity for that respects and follows along with guidelines that I can see, which is something to say. So on the right track with the PTPIs, with the QLGNs, the plans that are there are in place. It's not like I'm just so crazy far off that's the reason why I need to start paper trading and just like, okay, I need to do something totally radically different. I know I'm on the right track. I know I'm seeing the correct things. It's just now about, okay, how do I understand the entries and the exits? How do I master the mind and not just get so willy-nilly with trying to adjust on the fly and thinking I'm seeing something else and lose that focus, I think is the bigger part of it for that game plan. So GMEL mentioned as well, too, a little bit too hard of a sell-off today for me on that swing. I was in at like 236-ish somewhere within the morning from yesterday, looking to play this for a longer winter hold swing on like 100 shares, paper trading, of course, because of, just how it's continuing to build. AMC, the same type of thing, that these things are just not dying. At some point, it could get pretty ludicrous, and as we're coming into the winter months when everybody's still at home, reminiscent of, oh, hey, I still have GameStop, or talking about that over the dinner table, how much more attention these things could have. And GameStop, too, with its earnings coming up on the 7th. Yeah, the 7th of December here. Not to play it off of any amount of earnings like that actually matters, but just to get that name going around a little bit more again. I thought this one could have been pretty nice, but we had another of rejection here at this 250 price level. And so too hard of a sell-off day for me to still be holding this one as a swing from my position that I got from yesterday. But may get back into this if more technical levels start to come out again, or if we see some more basing, potentially off of this low here, which would be this 200 mark for me. If it starts to break below that, then shoot, it's definitely over for the short term, but still speculative, still educational. That's why the paper trade is there with that. That is all I freaking had. 32-minute video going over a lot of stuff, but I think it's very necessary, especially on days like today, just continuing to expand the mind. And I grade myself as an A for how I was able to handle just the stupidity and certainly the stress that was there from just trying to log into all these refresh, the trade zero, all the app and the calls, and I'm not getting calls, blah, blah, blah. Just absolute lunacy, but maintaining the same sideline through that. And that's just going to continue to set up better and better in the future for me as a trader, when I'm not going to say that I don't ever have to deal with that again, but going through those experiences more and more, and understanding that this trading thing doesn't have to be that hard. And I certainly tend to make it a lot harder than it is at some points. And a lot frustrating at times of just seeing how easy it is for other people on the Twitter and everybody else, every other social media site, of how much money they're making, but sticking with the truth and understanding that I can't compare myself to anybody else. This is my journey, and I'm still just over a year in to this on my journey. It's still an educational process, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. The biggest key that I continue to pound into myself, learning that from Tim Sykes, of course. Running the race, that is for sure. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.